is Hansford Johnson. I work in the schools of business, helping students figure out, what their calling is, what their passion is. Not so much a job, but what their career is. I was born in West Africa, in a country called Liberia. There's a lot of American influence, so much so, our capital is Monrovia, named after, President Monroe. Liberia was founded by freed slaves, hence my last name, Johnson. The slaves that were freed from America came over to Liberia and mixed with the indigenous peoples. Our common language is English, but we all are from different specific tribes, so we speak different dialects. And mine specifically is called Grobel. My mom always tells me every time I see her how I used to speak this specific language, which I don't understand, but kind of wish I did. So growing up, my mom and dad were married and decided to separate, get a divorce. In Liberia, in West Africa, it's difficult for a woman, to be single and be on her own and have 4 boys. So when that happened, obviously my mother wanted to have a life for herself. And it's not that in Liberia it's looked down upon. It's just, like some parts of the world where it's not as progressive as it is here in America. So she came here for education, and that meant 2 years away from me and my brothers. Our culture is very family-oriented, so it was nothing for me to have a second mother, who was my mom's first, sister. My memories of Liberia was looking out a window, rain is coming down really hard, and just really enjoying that smell. And the idea of being inside, of a building and being comforted, I guess. And that's what I remember most. When I left my brothers, I was 5 years old. When the Civil War began in '88, '89, they fled and lived in a neighboring country called Ghana and were able to go to schools, but really adapted a lot to the Ghanaian culture. People my age were parts of the war. Who were child soldiers, who, witnessed things that scar them for life, even now, still dealing with and trying to overcome. And at 5 years old, it's not that you're mature enough to, constantly call your brothers and those types of things, but I did, feel a little angst or a little, I guess, affected, I should say, by the fact that I probably would never see my brothers again. But when they did leave and go to Ghana, obviously with my father, it made it a lot more comforting to know that they were out, really in a safe zone. I went through a winter, a spring, and then a summer, and then I started school right away. And being in school and being around people that I've never seen before, I was very uncomfortable initially, but the beautiful thing about America is that you do have people who kind of embrace differences. My platform in helping me get adapted, to the culture in America was, number 1, the friendships I made, number 2, my mother, but number 3, sports. It helped me gain a specific identity at a very young age. A name like Hansford kind of makes you feel a little different. And, when I first got here, in the States, you kind of want to fit in. And I used to kind of despise, my first name. But as I grew and got older and realized that it's okay to embrace, your uniqueness and the way you were created and why you were made, it's okay that you don't look like everybody else. I mean, as a West African, you have pretty strong facial features, whether it's your nose, the way your forehead, all those kind of things. I began to embrace that, when I was younger, and as I mentioned, embrace my name, which was given to me by my grandmother, which means moving forward and overcoming. It's a family name, and I always remember, that I should not forget where I come from, that I'm fortunate to be here in the time that I'm here, because if I wasn't, I don't know if I'd be living right now, because I would have been part of a civil war. I have children now who are both American and African, and I think it's something wonderful for them to understand their culture and the heritage. Our country's decimated, and a lot of my siblings and a lot of my cousins and family are going back now to help the country restore. After the Civil War had, rest in 2002, a couple years later, my aunt, who is first cousin to my father, Ellen Johnson Sirleaf, was elected the president, the first head of state, female head of state ever in the history of Africa, the continent of Africa. It's through stuff like education that we can lift ourselves up. So she has a huge emphasis towards education and the development of the youth. And I find it pretty interesting that those are the things that I'm very passionate about. It's why I work at Wake Forest University. It's why I work, with students. I need to give back because if I wasn't given opportunities, I wouldn't be who I am today. And because I've had those opportunities, I think it's my responsibility to help another young Hansford, who's in Liberia now, who needs an opportunity.